Hey, Brock, Misty, Pikachu, whatever happens, don't let go! Oh, how did we end up on a beach? Let's hope we find out in the podcast. Hey, I'm Veronica Taylor.
And I'm Rena Taylor.
And this is
The Trainer's Guide. Today's episode,
Island of the Giant Pokémon! Hey everybody, welcome to episode 17!
Woohoo!
Amazing.
We're at the end of our journey with this this 3-part journey, I think.
From the St. Anne.
Yeah.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, there was a gigantic storm that sunk the St. Anne, and we've been battling bomb cyclone and, oh my gosh, I've blocked it all the way out, the atmospheric river.
Yeah.
Coming across all of California, and then it will be going further into the United States. But it has been quite a journey, a lot of flooding, a lot of water, and there's more to come.
I know. It's been pretty insane.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. But our heroes survived. So hopefully that means that we will survive as well.
They did, and maybe we'll all end up on a beach somewhere relaxing.
I know.
Anyway, I hope everybody's
is
safe.
Quite the beach that they've landed on. I don't know if I want to get on this one. I'm not sure.
Well, don't give away the ending, but you might.
I'm not.
So we start the episode with Magikarp has turned into Gyarados and creating this water cyclone funnel that sucks everybody up into it.
Yeah.
Our 3 heroes and Team Rocket and all the Pokemon. Everybody's sucked up into it.
Everybody gets sucked up and dumped, luckily all in the same place on this island, but they're all separated. So it's Ash, Misty, Brock are together, Jessie and James are together, and then Pikachu, Charmander, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, and then Meowth, Ekans, and Coughing all end up together. So
and
we've
interestingly
got 3
enough,
parts.
when everybody wakes up from being knocked out on the beach, they find that their Pokeballs are missing. So they have been separated, and Pikachu is the one who wanders over and kind of sets everyone free from their Pokeballs.
Yeah. Which was an interesting thing, too. I guess they can. I guess Pokemon can get out of their Pokeball if they want to. I didn't really know.
I don't think you can. I don't
Pikachu
think you can.
just taps them and they pop open. So.
Oh, no, you can do that, but Pikachu isn't in a Pokeball. I don't think when you're in one, you can let yourself out. Maybe you can.
Well, it seems like that's what they did. So I don't know. It seemed like they did that.
Pikachu set them free.
Well, I thought, to me, it looked more like Pikachu kind of just tapped it, but didn't throw it or press the button. So I thought it looked to me like they came out.
This is how it works.
I don't know.
You push the button and you are free.
Yeah.
Wax on, wax off.
Right. I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll have to ask some professionals to see what they think.
We'll have to get Professor Oak on the line.
That's true.
But
today.
At the moment, we can't do that because we're on a beach and there's nothing around.
Right.
And everyone is basically searching for one another. One of my favorite things right here in the beginning is when Team Rocket kind of wake up, come to. They are so happy that they've made it. And then they realize, Jessie says, we're penniless and pokeless.
Right.
Because they don't have anything. And then she's so dramatic that she reaches down and picks up the sand and has it running through her hands. The sands of time, they're losing out. They don't have much time left. The whole thing is so fun and sad and dramatic. That's one of my favorite parts in this whole episode.
I know. I do love, and I love that they acknowledge that they always are surviving because they are kind of put into these scenarios where you would think that they wouldn't get out,
Exactly.
But
and they do somehow.
And so it's at least they acknowledge that they're pretty lucky.
Right. At least they're aware of that.
Yeah. Which is good. They're very self-aware. And they know, in a way, they know that they are bad guys and whatever.
Right,
but,
right.
I think speaking of that, of bad guys, so the most interesting thing about this episode I found is that we actually get the Pokemon subtitles when they're talking. So that we actually have a lot of Pokemon conversations, but we can understand what they're saying rather than like with the Pikachu and Caterpie episode where they had that whole scene where they were talking, but there was no subtitles.
Dialect.
Right.
Yes. This is almost, I would say about half the episode is subtitled.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty amazing.
We really get into their heads.
Yeah.
One interesting part when the subtitles begin is when Charmander, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, and Pikachu, they see a Slowpoke.
Yes.
Sitting on a rock. And Slowpoke really doesn't even respond at all. It just sits there, which is what Slowpoke does. It doesn't really do anything, and it does everything in its own time anyway.
Yeah.
It's slow, and then it just dips its tail into the water, and then that's the end of it, and they move on.
That was so confusing. That was the most confusing part of this episode. Because I will say, this is not a spoiler, but at the end of the episode, we cut back to Slowpoke, and it's taken its tail out of the water, and that thing is biting it, and
it evolves.
I know.
Yeah.
It evolves into Slowbro. But what was the point of that?
Well, I think really if we want to get into the deeper messages here is that everyone evolves in their own time, at their own speed, and in their own way. And that's, I think, that can be said for everyone. Humans, animals, everything. And so this is a prime example of Slowpoke just being, and through being, it evolves.
Yeah, I guess
it doesn't have to do anything special. It just is. And I think we can all take a lesson from that.
That's
Sometimes
true.
you simply have to just be.
And go at your own pace in that sense.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. So it doesn't fully make sense because we're constantly running and doing. And I mean, even the school system, you're learning and you have to pass tests and you have to do all these things to move to the next level. But we can all maybe be a Slowpoke every now and then and just simply evolve.
Yeah.
Let it be, man.
Yeah,
You know?
I guess so. That makes sense. It just didn't make any sense in the context of the rest of what happened in this episode.
No, you have to wait till the end, which now we've gone ahead. But I thought that was so cool.
Yeah,
you know?
It was fun.
It was, especially when there's a lot of crazy running around in this and a lot of other crazy things. That was so simple.
And I guess if you think about it in terms of evolution, the episode itself was a lot about evolutions. Because we talk about we learn about what the evolutions of all of Ash's Pokemon are indirectly.
Right.
And so perhaps in that way, then this kind of ties into that because, Slowpoke evolves at the end. So I'm not sure entirely where I'm going with it, but we do learn a lot about the evolution stages. So anyway.
Yes, they're named. We don't see how one evolves, but at the end, we see a Pokemon evolve.
Right.
Yeah. So, wow. I guess you could dive deeper to say, any doctor has to learn so much about how everything works. And, but sometimes you just have to see it to understand
and I
it.
guess, this is going forward and then we'll go back. But if you think about it, all the evolutions of Ash's Pokemon that we see on the island, the massive Pokemon, they're all fake. And Slowpoke is the only real thing, the only real Pokemon living on the island. And so when it evolves, it's the only thing that remains at the end.
It's kind of the sage.
Right.
It's the wise one, even though it doesn't speak very much.
Yeah, and doesn't help or do anything.
Yeah, perhaps it's the ultimate beach goer, surfer dude that it just simply is,
It's
and
listening to Jimmy Buffett.
And he goes, he's like, slow bro.
Yeah. He's getting out his headphones, just jamming. What would the Pokemon equivalent to like Margaritaville be?
I don't know. They don't. Brock snacks that Brock makes.
Yeah, or like Elixirville, or
don't know.
Magnemiteville or something. We'll have to think of a good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this has gone way off topic. But yeah, there's a lot of, we'll take write-ins for this.
Yes, yeah. If you think of a good name for a Pokemon themed Margaritaville song.
Right. Because we are on the island of giant Pokemon.
Right.
So there are these giant, that can be part of the song that you send in, but they are giant, really giant Pokemon roaming all around this island.
Right.
In a somewhat terrifying way.
Yeah, they are dangerous because they don't seem to be willing to talk. So basically, if we go back a little bit, I think another interesting thing is, so the Pokemon are kind of in a group together, and they all are wondering where all of the trainers are. And Bulbasaur is the only one who says, maybe they've forgotten about us. Maybe they've abandoned us.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so interesting because, I mean, so Squirtle, Charmander, and Bulbasaur, I think were all abandoned, right? Because Bulbasaur was with
all about that. Yeah.
They found him at that house. And I think that those Pokemon were there because they were like in rehab, essentially, from bad trainers. But Bulbasaur's the only one who says, I'm an orphan, I don't have a family, whatever. And it's just really interesting that, I don't know, it was just a really interesting thing because you see that Bulbasaur, even though it's with Ash and, having a great time, it still doesn't fully trust anybody.
Right. And their past trauma has been kind of sparked, and they all immediately retreat into the, we've been abandoned, we'll be alone now. And only Pikachu believes that Ash will come back, even saying in subtitles, Ash, where are you?
Yeah, I know.
So cute. But they do stick together.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
They search for their companions, I would say. Here, when Meowth then is with Ekans and Coughing, Meowth is like, come on, you guys, let's get over there and let's fight these Pokemon, Ash's Pokemon, and let's beat them. And both Ekans and Coughing say, you're not our master.
Yeah, I know.
We don't have to do what you tell us to do.
Right.
So I also think that we've not kind of dealt anywhere with how Pokemon think. And we think of the trainer as a companion, that we're all working together. And for them to be saying, you're not our master, I thought that was interesting. And they said Pokemon aren't bad.
Right.
It's they do bad things because the master is bad, and the master tells them to do something, which is on a whole different level.
Totally. And I feel like it's kind of interesting because Meowth is the only one that can talk. And Meowth is the only one that kind of thinks independently of its trainer. Like Meowth is the only one that's saying, let's go, we're evil, blah, blah, blah. But the rest of the Pokemon, they kind of know, in that sense, know their place, but not really in that way. But they just have different views of how, this all works.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas Meowth is a little bit more autonomous, maybe.
And Pikachu, too, for that matter.
Yeah.
Because Pikachu is the one who's kind of corralling everyone to keep up hope.
Yeah, definitely.
And for keeping up morale. It's interesting. So then, so they're all sitting around.
Also, the Pokemon eat so much in this episode.
That's right.
Because they're sitting
even
around
though they're
eating.
On an island.
Yes, they're eating. And then the next scene, because they're all they're all looking for each other. And then the Pokemon, a giant Pokemon comes, and then it's the same thing. So giant Pokemon are chasing basically all of the guys on the island. And then in the next scene, the Pokemon are at like a little makeshift hut where another slow bro or slow poke is cooking for them.
That's right. Cooking. And it's a whole, almost like a little buffet there for them to sit. But meanwhile, they're just crying about being abandoned, but eating and just all hanging out together.
I just think
they
that's
tie
hilarious.
Meowth up, and Meowth can't, because Meowth is mean, and until it apologizes, they're not going to untie it. But they're all just commiserating sobbing, eating,
Yeah.
feeding their sorrows.
I just think it's hilarious. In all the other episodes when the trainers are in charge, they can't find food and whatever. And in this episode, when the Pokemon are left to their own devices, they've got a whole
They even
shack.
find a restaurant.
Yeah, a little
exactly.
restaurant.
Well, yeah, restaurant. You know, also, remember we were in Pompeii at one time, which has been my lifetime goal to go visit. And obviously we all know they have excavated places, the city, whatever.
Yep.
I'm trying to tell this quickly and it's going on forever. But there are examples of take out food in these counters where they would have bowls set that they could keep it heated and people could come, or not take out, or like restaurants that you walk by.
Like
a walk
counter.
up, counter service type thing on the roadway.
Yeah.
And this is basically that same thing.
Definitely.
Where they just have walked up, taken a seat at the counter, and they're getting food. So this is an age-old way of getting food when you're not cooking at home.
Totally.
And here we see it on a deserted island.
Right.
So we think deserted.
Yes. And then, so speaking of deserted, the giant Pokemon come and everybody kind of sees. So Ash, Misty, and Brock see a giant Charizard. Jesse and James see a giant Pikachu. And the Pokemon see a giant Blastoise. And somebody, maybe it's Charmander or someone says to Squirtle, hey, that's your evolved form. You guys are related. Go talk to it. And maybe you can ask it for directions or something.
Yeah.
So Squirtle goes and says, what's up, bro? Actually says that. And then the Blastoise turns and shoots water at them.
And
then,
blasts it.
Yeah. And then they see a Venusaur and they say to Bulbasaur, hey, that's your evolved form. Your family. Go get it. Go talk to it.
Right.
And Bulbasaur says, I'm an orphan or something.
I don't have family. Yeah.
Right.
I'm not
But so
doing
they try to reason with these giant Pokemon, but there's no luck. They can't do it.
Exactly. And then meanwhile, then they all go to sleep.
Yes.
So you see everybody, all of the Pokemon kind of curled up together, sleeping. You see Ash, Brock, and Misty have slept in a cave.
Yep.
And then Team Rocket just kind of fell asleep on the ground.
Right after they hit their head on a sign.
Oh, that's right. Because what was flying overhead? Was that a Pharaoh, do you think? Or
It was like
I wasn't sure. Because it was so dark that you couldn't tell. It's like real bird watching where you're just trying to guess from the shape of it. I wasn't sure.
It was, I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Anyway, they've all woken up, which is another thing. We don't normally go through days. So here we've passed, a definite day has passed and night has passed. And now we're back on the trail of trying to reconnect and save ourselves. So Team Rocket, of course, decides, well, they see a phone booth of all things.
Right.
On this island. And they decide to make a call. Collect, which for anyone who doesn't know, means that you can call and put the charges through to the other end, the receiving person. So they call the boss Collect, and they can't speak to the boss before they do their own introduction, which is hilarious.
I can't believe it. It's so funny.
I know, and the boss will have none of it.
And I love if you're watching the episodes along with us, what I love the most is when they do it, you can hear the like theme song sound in the background, like through the phone.
Yes.
So it's that
so
it's that like but in the phone sound. So it sounds like it's it's not coming, it's coming from the phone. I just
brilliant.
love it. I love it. It's
I know.
so funny.
They did a great job with that sound design.
Yeah.
On that.
And it's just such like, I don't know, it's so clever. And if you're paying attention, there's so many little things that I think are so great.
Yeah. And then they decide, well, now they've been abandoned. They have to save themselves.
Because the boss says, don't wake me up. Like, don't be ridiculous, and hangs up.
They don't tell the boss where they are, though, right?
They don't get there.
Just say,
they don't get to that point.
So he has no idea where they're calling from. But they say, let's follow the cable that's connected to this telephone booth. It must lead to the phone company which is hilarious also. So they start pulling themselves along with the whole booth along the cable.
Right.
And that's when they see the gigantic Pikachu, or Bigachu, as they call it. Hilarious. Anyway, so as we are kind of not really wrapping this up, but moving towards the end, they get flung into a railroad cart.
Yeah.
Of course, which is classic Western cartoon. It's a classic escape.
Yeah.
To be, first of all, there's a track there and a cart on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things at this island that don't really make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But they get into the car and they're running away from a pincer, maybe? No. It looks like Hitmonchan, but it's not. It's
I don't know.
Not Scyther. I don't know. Anyway, they're running away from another giant Pokemon, and the cable gets stuck. They trip the Pokemon, so they start dragging the Pokemon as they're going in the cart.
Right.
And then as they're going, it's a great way of getting everybody together, because Ash, Misty, and Brock are there, and they see a giant Pikachu, and then the cart is coming and it sweeps up the Pikachu, and Ash, Misty, and Brock get in the cart.
Right.
And then the Pokemon are running.
And they all get in. Yeah. They get in. Everybody reunites and hugs.
Right, and cries. It's lovely. There's lots of crying.
Right.
And they're just dragging. They drag all these Pokemon along with them, and then they fly up into the air and smash.
Right, because the track goes around in a loop of all things.
Right. It's like a roller coaster.
Yes, like a roller coaster. Odd.
And then they fly. The cord snaps. They fly into the air, and they crash into, I think, that flying Pokemon that we can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mechanical.
Yes.
And then they crash into the water.
Exactly right. And then all of these other Pokemon are just all piled up with all of their little springs coming out, and it's all mechanical.
Right.
And the only reason we find out what's going on is a boat is going by, and a tour guide on the boat says, this is Pokemon land. Where we have these giant mechanical Pokemon. And then she goes, everything's broken. Well, I guess we'll just keep going.
Yeah.
And then the next thing we know, Ash, Misty, and Brock are
fine
in Porta Vista.
I know.
So
their journey continues.
That's right. We don't know how they got on the other boat, how they got rescued.
Right.
Anything. But
Nothing.
Suddenly now they're actually in a beach town with other people.
Right. And what I think was so crazy, because I have been a bit of a slow poke recently, and I've been watching a lot of murder mysteries. And this was like so murder mystery to me. I've been watching a lot of Columbo specifically. And this, at the end, Giovanni gets a call, or the boss, gets a call.
Yes.
And says, Pokemon Land is destroyed. I've put millions into it.
Yes.
What?
But why?
Well, yeah, what is that all about? That just seems like such an open-ended thing.
Yes, what if he is trying to through Team Rocket collect all these Pokemon?
Yeah.
What if he's transforming them into mechanical Pokemon? I mean, it's kind of like Jurassic Park, where you have these,
totally
giant. Maybe ultimately he's starting with robotic giant Pokemon, and then through some kind of DNA cloning, I don't know what, he's going to get actual real Pokemon there.
I don't know. But that whole thing was so crazy. It was such a wild thing. And I don't know. What happened to Jesse and James?
We don't know.
How did they get off the island? Was it really an island? Like,
I think, yes.
It says island, but
it could have been built. The whole thing could have been man-made.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot to unpack here.
It's
in
so
terms
crazy.
Of in your own mind.
Right.
We don't need to discuss it.
And you really
can
think
discuss
that,
it.
Yes, sometime else. But we have a whole podcast about discussing, so this really works for us.
Yes, true. Right.
But what I think is interesting is they have this, at the beginning, they're so isolated. except like these weird things with the telephone booth and whatever that kind of connect them to the real world. And by the end, I mean, there's a boat with a woman on it,
Right, just swimming by.
It's just so close to reality. So you go, they really go from being so by themselves to, being smack dab in the middle of civilization again.
Right, exactly.
Which is so crazy.
So they even come out of their own abandonment. Like you just need to have hope and perseverance to kind of battle any situation, I think, that you find duress within.
And as we've learned, you have to stick together because when you're with your friends or your team, it makes it a lot easier to weather the storm, because the minute you get separated, that's when things go bad.
Yeah, and when you're on your own, you don't always come up with solutions in the quickest or the best way.
Right.
You need to brainstorm ideas and kind of work together for everyone to literally pull their weight, And it's interesting how the different groups react when they're not complete.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? They're all kind of... But I do love the fact that all of the Pokemon just simply work together. They all... And they're all together against Meowth, which is interesting because it won't apologize.
Right.
So I think if that had happened, Meowth would have been sitting there eating with them.
Totally.
The whole time.
Definitely.
But I just thought that was it was so great to just show you how we can all get along, And when you acknowledge the outside forces that are making you do something, you have a choice.
Yeah.
You can choose to be good or bad. You can choose to be positive and move forward. And you can choose to help each other out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was a great lesson in this episode.
Agreed.
It was interesting, strange.
I know.
And larger than life. And yet the story was kind of small.
Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of interesting because I think there might be a Pokemon theme park in Japan.
I don't know.
But they have theme parks for other things. I mean, obviously they've got Disney has some theme parks there, but they've got the Studio Ghibli theme park and stuff. So it's an interesting, in practice, this is a great kind of advertisement. Maybe advertisement gone wrong for a Pokemon
advertisement
theme park.
against.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a hope that they would have one in the beginning and then it went somewhere else. But those giant Pokemon, there's no way. With them kind of almost stepping on everyone.
Oh my God, I know. You're totally right. It is very Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
In that sense.
In that it's terrifying.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it left us all with such a great feeling. And no matter what, especially with all of these storms that have been happening everywhere, the sun will come up. And you've got to get through it and batten down the hatches and get through it and try to band together as much as you can.
Totally.
To help.
Yeah.
And then also laugh your way through because there were some really good jokes in this. And I think without the humor, none of us can get through anything.
Agreed.
Well, anyway, I think this is a good time for the Poke Wrap Up,
where we hear from you, the Pokemon community.
We asked you to send in your favorite Pokemon memories, stories, and inspirations.
And here are a few of this week's.
Okay, hi, my name's Evie, and I'm from Ireland, and I think my favorite Pokemon memory would have to be whenever I first started collecting Pokemon cards, because it was one thing me and my brother could actually really start to bond and talk to each other about, and it really grew our friendship with our brother and sister.
Hi, my name is Josh, I'm from England, and I think my favorite Pokemon memory is relatively new, to be honest. It's back when I played X and Y a few years ago, and weirdly, I was young enough that I thought they were two different games. So I played both of them, and after completing both of them, still thought they were different games until recently where I realized they are the exact same game. But also, growing up, you buy Pokemon cards and you just think they look cool, and you never really know how to play the game, and you kind of just go, my Pokemon looks cooler than yours. So I think just as a thing growing up, being this big thing that brings people together and you show other people these Pokemon cards you've got and you get to meet new people through it, it's always been a great experience. So those are my favorite Pokemon memories.
Hey, I am Ryan, and
I'm Jack, or Jekyll Draws, at MegaCon Live in Dublin.
hey,
And we just want to say that we listen to the Pokemon Christmas Bash every single year while putting up our Christmas tree, and it is an integral part of our family life.
more people should know about it, and if you don't, find it.
It's on Spotify.
It is on Spotify.
My favorite part is what is it on the feast of Stephen? What is it? So
Gave to me.
when it's like
It's like
falling
a side
down.
duck in a pear tree.
Yeah.
Like that.
I like. There's a
It's
bit
great.
though where like I can't remember who comes back in. I think it's Misty, and she's like, "Did you get the wood ash?" And I goes, "Oh yeah." That's my favorite bit.
Every year.
So
It's
funny.
the best.
I know where you go, Brocco, and we're like, "Yes, amazing."
You definitely had the best time working on that thing.
So fun.
You guys are the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely.
A special thanks to Evie, Josh, Ryan, and Jack for sending in your stories to us. And we want to hear from all of you.
Email us or write to us at trainersguidepod@gmail.com.
Oh, and try to keep it short, maybe 30 seconds or so. We don't want to have to edit.
Oh, and please include your first name and where you're from.
Well, that about wraps up today's episode of
The Trainer's Guide.
And, as they say,
To be continued.
We hope that you continue to join us on this journey that is The Trainer's Guide.
As you know, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you're listening now.
And if you subscribe, comment, and rate the podcast, it helps others find the show and keeps us on the air.
Thank you so much in advance for your generosity and all of your amazing support.
Trainer's Guide is a production of Boom Integrated.
We are co-executive producing this along with
The amazing Adrian Glover.
and the incomparable Robin Lai. I'm your host, Veronica Taylor,
And I'm your host, Rena Taylor.
and this has been
The Trainer's Guide.
We'll see you out there on the road.